And a very pleasant good evening. Welcome to this special edition of Brevard College Tornado Athletics Programming. It's the 2020 Hall of Fame induction. Andy Latimer, class of 1983, the inductee who we will be celebrating over this next hour. We invite you to leave your questions and comments in the Facebook Live or YouTube chat function, and we'll be sure to get to them throughout the show. And before we get started, though, we want to tell you more about Andy Latimer, class of 1983. Andy Latimer graduated from Brevard College in 83 after a highly accomplished career as a track and field student athlete, 5-time All-American, 3 national championships while at Brevard, all under the guidance of Hall of Fame coach Norm Whittick, who's with us tonight as well. Andy won the 1982 NJCAA Indoor Track and Field National title in the triple jump, also an All-American performance in the high jump. He followed that with an outdoor national championship in the triple jump, his second national title of 1982. A third national championship came in 83 as he was part of a gold medal performance with the BC Distance Medley Relay team. Went on to earn another All-American triple jump performance, the 5th of his BC career at the 1983 Outdoor National Championships. After graduating from Brevard, he went on to become a student athlete at Florida State University and is currently back at his hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, where he has worked for years as a member of the Jacksonville, Florida Sheriff's Department. And that last visual there was of head coach Norm Whittick. So we're going to hand it over to Coach Whittick, who will formally induct Andy into the Hall of Fame and give his remarks. Coach Whittick, I'm afraid you're on mute. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, Nancy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, all is well.
I wish I could give you a big hug.
Me too.
Good. I'm going to jump out and let Coach take this.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to really shift gears here from our last inductee with Bob Gray. And we have a tendency to really spend a lot more time talking about our distance program and all our great distance runners we have. And we usually forget that we've had a lot of great track and field athletes. And so this is really an honor today because Andy is going to be our first track and field athlete inducted into the Brevard College Hall of Fame. And that's certainly a great honor, and it's long overdue, believe me. So in Andy's case, when we think about making All-American, it's pretty tough to make an All-American. Hundreds of people go through events and so forth. Sometimes you are lucky enough to All-American certificates. And most of our people here at Brevard College in the Hall of Fame probably have earned 2 of them, but nobody at Brevard College has been All-American different events. And so when we look at Andy and why he's even nominated in this thing, because Andy made All-American in the high jump, made All-American in the triple jump, and also a leg on the winning distance medley team. So that in itself goes, wow, 3 All-Americans ought to have got him in, and that's pretty good. Well, Andy still is not done because he wound up being one of those rare individuals who actually won the national triple jump title and gave him his 4th. And then on top of that, wound up winning the outdoor triple jump to give him 5 All-American certificates, which is the unbelievable honor. There's only one other athlete at Brevard College who's actually won 2 different national field events. Andy, you know who he is?
Wilbert.
Who's won 2 field events?
I would think Wilbert in the discus. No?
Jerfy, this is track. This is in field events. Jerfy McElwain won the shot put, indoor and outdoor. He's the only one other than you to have done that. So when we look at Andy and look at his ability to win 5 All-American things, we look at Andy and say, well, what made him so special? Well, he certainly was a very determined young man, had a great aspect of positive attitude to basically achieve what he wanted to. And unfortunately, no matter how good Andy was, I was not a triple jump person, just like I didn't learn a whole lot when I first came to Brevard with distance. Well, I was not a triple jumper, so Andy really did a lot of that stuff on his own. He did have some help with Willie Holman, who helped him along the way. But certainly Andy did most of that on his own. The only problem I had with Andy was getting him off the basketball court. And Andy could jump. And I fought with Andy to get him. Every time I'd go down to the gym, I go, isn't he supposed to be working on his triple jump boxes? I think he's in the gym. I go, what? I'd go in there and he'd be playing basketball. And the hardest time for me was trying to convince the basketball coach that he couldn't play basketball for him. Yeah, he wanted Andy so bad. And I just couldn't. I'm like, guy's a 5-time All-American. Do I really want him playing basketball? And so Andy, of course, set the school record for us at 52 feet 1 inch. And that may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but 52 feet 1 inch is as good as major universities have as their school records. That's going to be a record that we'll probably see Brevard College have for a very, very long time. And eventually he wound up going to, of course, Florida State. And I looked this up, Andy. Your jumps are still in the top 10 for both the indoor and outdoor triple jump measurements. So you still got it over there, buddy. So anyways, I'd like to officially welcome Andy into the Athletic Hall of Fame. And again, being our first track and field athlete, it's been a great honor. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Coach Whittick. And before we hand it over to Andy, we're also joined now by Brevard College President David Joyce. President Joyce, I know you've got some words for Andy Latimer.
I apologize to have to leave, but I'm glad because I'm meeting with a board member in just a few minutes. But Andy, you've made us proud, and anybody that Norm says all the nice things he says about you, I can't wait to meet you in person and hear some of the stories. He told stories about you, but you got to tell us some stories about him. And I'm sure you have a few because he's a character too. But it's exciting to meet you online and also to know what you have done for Brevard College and how you've represented Brevard College, and that your records still stand, and at least always will probably always be in the top 10. That says a lot. And then what you did when you moved to Florida too. And I understand you're now a sheriff, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, good for you. Congratulations. And it's a crazy time right now. I know that, but we'll all get through it. And you know that you and your family will continue to be in our prayers as one, you live in a state with a significant amount of COVID-19, but with all that else is going on there. And we hope that your time at Brevard College is well served and it's serving you where you are today. And again, on behalf of the college, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Joyce, for being able to pop into the show this evening. And Andy, we'll hand it over to you. You're now officially a Brevard College Tornado Athletics Hall of Famer. Thank you, Coach Whittick, for that presentation, making it official. And Andy, how does it feel?
Oh, man, it's just unbelievable. I would like to make a special thanks to Coach Whittick for nominating me and, number one, selecting me to come to Brevard. Thanks to the Hall of Fame committee for approving the selection. And, man, it's just a thrill. It really is a thrill to be a part of such an elite company of athletes, very special athletes. I never thought or would have dreamed that I would be in this position. So it is just beyond all thoughts or beliefs. So once again, thanks again. And I'm really internally grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, sir. My experiences at Brevard, Coach. Coach, thank you once again. I have to make a special thanks to Willie Holman. Willie was my teammate back then in 82, 81, 82, 83 to guide me through it. I remember coming through high school my senior year. And it's funny, my senior year, they introduced triple jump as a sport in track and field for the first time my senior year. My high school coach said, I'll try it, see what happens. I never would think that, number one, Coach Whittick will reach out to somebody who's just starting to learn the event and offer a scholarship and pick me up. So I'm eternally grateful for Coach Whittick for looking at me and seeing something beyond just a mediocre high school athlete and say, hey, listen, this is somebody we can develop. This is somebody we can give an opportunity to do some things.
Appreciate that, Andy. Coach Whittick, we'll bring it back to you. If you can kind of reflect on that whole era of Brevard College cross country, track and field during those early 80s. I know a lot of success during that time, but can you kind of tell us the bird's eye view of what was going on during those years?
Here, yeah. Those were the years where we really started to make a name for ourselves. And I worked very hard and thought I could do it a lot earlier, but it took a little longer than I thought. And it just seems like the better athletes you bring in and the more success, like you get someone like Andy, and all of a sudden those individuals bring in better people and the better people bring in better people. And so all of a sudden in the 80s, we really started to recruit some very, very talented people. And Andy is just one of those that we're very lucky because in a small school like Brevard, being able to just do one event isn't really profitable for us. And so we were really looking for people who could actually do multiple events. And so a guy like Andy, who really, he was a high jumper, he was a long jumper, he was a triple jumper, and we even made him run on the relay teams. And that's pretty valuable to have someone that was that good that could do all those events. And then again, we recruited people like in the decathlon. We've had 2 national decathlon champions. We've had, we said, Jerfy McElwain, a 2-time All-American in the shot put. Almost every event that we've had some kind of All-American in. And of course, these things were very good because the major universities were after these kids like crazy. And a guy like Andy, for instance, got a chance to compete. I mean, he would have never probably gotten a chance to compete and get a good scholarship to a place like Florida State right off out of high school. But after you came here, you know, to jump 52 feet 1 inch was not that far off a national record. And those kinds of schools love people like Andy. And so from that standpoint, we were getting a lot of good coverage from the major universities. Because they were very interested in recruiting our kids. They were getting good kids that were not only good students, because Brevard had a tremendous academic. And I think the biggest problem with junior college is a lot of schools didn't like to recruit junior college athletes. And the reason for that is that the junior college athlete had a very bad reputation. And when I say that is that most of them were community colleges. They had open door policies. A lot of kids who had been in trouble went to community colleges, and a lot of schools just didn't want to recruit those kinds of kids. But they knew at Brevard that they were getting a very good quality kid. And I would tell kids when I recruited them that if they screwed up, I'm not recommending them. And there were times when a school would call and say, hey, I'm really interested in this kid. And I'm go, well, you can have them, but I can't recommend you. I recommend that individual. And so when I would recommend someone like Andy, they would just swoop them up. I mean, there would never be an issue with the kids that we would send out of here. So I think not only did we have great athletes, but we had just great people. Brevard's done a great job at developing these kids to a point where, again, so many schools were after these kids. We never had a hard time placing them anywhere.
Fantastic. Thanks, Coach Whittick. Before we let you go, President David Joyce, can can you kind of sum up, the importance of things like the Athletics Hall of Fame and these Hall of Famers, homecoming alumni, just how meaningful it is to have people like Andy Latimer part of this group?
Well, it keeps all of us connected to the folks that have gone before us, and it helps us celebrate the how well, and I appreciate what Norm has just said, how well and how that we educate and compete, help our students compete. And Andy was a classic example of that we do things right, we do it with class, and we do it in a way that everybody wants to either in those days recruit our graduates, and in these days to hire our graduates too. So I think in athletics, and for me to be able to compete, and I was an athlete in college as well, to be able to compete and learn how to both compete in the classroom and outside the classroom, and to make lifelong friendships, it's a total well-rounded education. And Brevard, being the size that it is, we have so much opportunities. And Phil, and I don't want to digress, but we just got a lot of TV coverage because two of our athletes were the stars in our most recent theater production. It's the first time we ever did one as a drive-in. It just shows that athletes can do lots of things and do it well. And the fact that Andy is a successful sheriff in Florida and he served when he was here at college, but he's still serving his community now in his career. It just says about the class and the way that mentoring and educating has all come together. And Norm, I'm going to give you credit. I'm sure Andy has already given you credit for helping this young man develop into the excellent adult that he has, and the fact that you would nominate him for the Alumni Award, the Athletic Hall of Fame, says a lot, because in some way it's forever. It's forever, Andy. I mean, your picture and your name's going to be on the wall forever. As long as Brevard's here, you're here with us, and so we're glad you're part of us, man. I got to go. Take care.
Well, thank you, President Joyce. Appreciate it.
You were not.
Yeah, thank you, President Joyce. Really appreciate that. And Andy, reflecting back on your Brevard College experience, both as an athlete but really as a student athlete, and setting you up for heading to Florida State after Brevard College. Reflecting back now, how did Brevard College prepare you, for the success later in your life and your career as a professional?
Well, Brevard gave me the necessary tools to, number one, be successful by instilling discipline. They gave you structure. Coach was very instrumental in letting you know the value of hard work, the value of preparation, the value of getting out there and preparing yourself, not just athletically, but academically as well. So you can be ready. You can be readily accessible to take on any opportunities that the future holds for you. And I think Brevard was very instrumental in that. It gave you the perfect environment for that. It's a small knit community. Everybody treated you as family. It was just a perfect place for me to go as a little kid coming out of Jacksonville, Florida, coming to the mountains in Brevard, where it's close knit. Everybody's pulling for everybody. Everybody's trying to get your personal growth and really help you, springboard you to a major college or university where you can be successful. So yes, it's definitely, I'm very thankful for that and the groundwork that was laid to help me do other things as well.
And Coach Whittick, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on that, more, the holistic side of the, student athlete experience at Brevard College. And part of that is, the disciplines of running cross country or running track and field, and how it sets these guys up for future success. Coach, I'm afraid you're on mute again, please.
Okay.
There we go. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. When I was really developing my own philosophy, I always looked at what it contributed more to society rather than being an athlete. And so much of my recruiting was, first of all, was to really look at the kid, the background, not just his ability to jump or throw or run, but what kind of character did they really have? Because that was really important to me, that the whole team believed in that. We didn't want to have a bunch of just renegades, individuals and all that. And yeah, I could have recruited some really talented athletes over the years, but I just didn't want to do that. And so working with them, certainly on their grades, I don't know how many times I had kids in my office saying that, hey, you're not going to be able to compete unless you get your grades going. If you were going to get in trouble with campus life, you were going to be put on suspension for the team. And I don't know, Andy, if I'm mistaken, I left you at Dogwood. Was that yeah. Just to give you a good example, now, Andy, like I said, he was my pride and joy. I mean, because he was really good, but he was just a great character kid. And we were really trying to go to Dogwood Relays. It's a big, big meet. And I told everybody to get at the cafeteria at 7:30 and we're leaving at 8. Well, 7:30, everybody's there except for Andy. And I go, man, I don't know where that guy is. I don't know. 8 o'clock came and then someone goes, where's Andy? I said, I don't know. We're getting on the bus. We're going. They go, well, we're going to go get Andy. I go, no, you're not. If he's not here, we're gone. We just left him. And yeah, I mean, I look back and go, gosh, it would have been nice for him to have been there. But then again, that's not what it was all about. And I think sometimes people might look at me as being a hard ass or whatever, but sometimes it just takes that hard love to be able to do that. And I told people that I would treat them just like I would my own kids. And that's the way I did it with my own kids. They were basically, when you told them to do something, they were expected to do it to the very best of their ability. And if they didn't, then I made them watch my old Tennessee films. And then that pretty much straightened them out because they hated watching those long runs for me that I got picked up where they picked up to shoot. And they go, oh, no, not the Tennessee films. I'll do anything. Please, please, Dad. So, yeah, I think that my philosophy has always been and what the kid can contribute to society, you know, grade wise. And I don't know how many kids I've left off a team because their grades weren't good enough yet to really make it. And like I said, I mean, so we had a better place in some other meet. It didn't really make that much difference. If it could make it a point to the kid on trying to get them on the right track, that was more important.
And our kids loved Andy.
Yeah, and of course our kids loved Andy.
Fantastic.
Didn't you take care of our kids, Andy?
Yes, sir. Once or twice.
I think we made.
Yes, sir.
Andy, if you can tell us a little more, I want to learn and maybe educate our audience about the triple jump and sort of the, you know, maybe getting into the technical side of that. How did you learn, you know, the skills involved in the triple jump that ultimately made you a national champion?
Well, the triple jump, it's the old hop, skip, and jump. They used to call it back in the, I guess, in the 30s or so. But it's an event that you have to have strength in both legs. Unlike a long jumper may be dominant in one leg, that's your jump leg. But as a triple jumper, you have to have the unique skills of being strong in both legs. And Coach Whittick was able to recognize that, and he established some box drills. I used to hate them. I mean, we set it up in the gym on the mats, and we used to go over drills, teaching you the finer techniques of how to triple jump. And that made all the difference in the world for me, is developing that, because like I say, it's a cross between a long jumper and the triple jumper is a cross between a long jumper and a sprinter. You have to have speed, you have to have strength, and you have to have balance. And I was able to obviously listen to some of the things Coach said and follow through with that, and did okay.
And moreover, you know, you're a part of the distance medley relay team. Can you tell us about that? And what are your memories of that relay team in winning another national title?
Oh, that's an interesting story. I was once again doing something I shouldn't be doing. I was playing basketball, and because I love to play, and it's just a good sport. And I shouldn't have been on the court, so I was on the court anyway playing, and I turned my ankle, so I had a sore ankle. So now I had tried to nurse my ankle back to health, and I think I must have had about 2 weeks before nationals. So now I'm here sitting here trying to get better. I perform in the triple jump. I think I ended up getting honorable mention, but it's an event that I should have won that year, but I didn't win it because of the bum ankle. And coach said, okay, well, I got an event for you. You need help on the distant medley. You can run the 400 meters. So he threw me on that, and I'm glad he did. And the rest is history on that.
Coach, can you maybe tell us more? Do you reflect back on that story Andy was telling about the relay team?
No, but I can on the basketball. Yeah, I was really shocked, I guess, and Andy and I have talked about this, and I really had anticipated that Andy really was going to set the national indoor record. I mean, there was just no doubt about it. He was in prime shape, and every now and then I would catch him in the gym and have to chew him out. But the kids were pretty good about not telling me stuff because I guess they liked Andy too. And so we go to the national championship, and I'm all excited, of course, because he's triple jumping. And all of a sudden, I'm watching him go down the runway, and he's limping halfway down there, and I'm going, what in the world's going on? And I look around, and I look at my team who are all sitting behind me, and I'm going, guys, what's the matter with him? And they're all looking around, no one wants to say anything, And someone goes, oh, he sprained his ankle. I go, what? Oh, man, was I pissed. And so that but, you look back at it now, and it's just an experience that kids will do. Even my kids have done things that they weren't supposed to do, but you learn from it and you grow up. And I certainly don't have any negatives on Andy on any of that, because I'm sure he probably feels worse than I do on it. And I'm sure that he's learned a lot from it, especially when he has children, and can kind of look at that and learn some things and maybe take those on in raising his kids as well.
Appreciate that, Coach. Andy, when we spoke back in the spring when you were selected for the Hall of Fame, you mentioned a teammate, Willie Holman. Would like to hear from you as far as just how meaningful Mr. Holman was as far as your career goes and, your time at Brevard College.
Thank you. Willie was very instrumental. Willie was one of those athletes that he was a football player, basketball player, and a track athlete. So he came to Brevard College just a tremendous athlete. And he was triple jumping in high school long before I was. So he was a better jumper. He actually jumped a lot further than I did, and he had a better technique. So I really just mimicked everything he did and listened to him, and he helped me on the finer side, the technique side of it, what I should feel like going over the phases, going through the phases, what position I should be in. So he really just helped push me beyond where I thought I can go in that event technically. So he was very instrumental.
Outstanding. And speaking of former teammates and friends of Andy Latimer Sr., we're glad to be joined now by Ronnie Treadway, who was at Brevard College and then also was a teammate of Andy's at Florida State. Ronnie, thanks for joining the program.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, Ronnie, we'll give you the next couple minutes to, congratulate Andy and give your thoughts as far as Andy's induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, Andy, it's been a long time, but congratulations. You're very worthy of this honor. And I just want to mention the first time that I ever heard your name, you're going to get a good chuckle out of this one because you've never heard this story. But a good friend of ours going all the way back to about 1981 was Jeff Muth. He ran 1 year for Brevard. Then he also transferred to Florida State, and he became one of my two roommates going into my senior year. Well, he was all excited this one day, and he came up to me He said, Ronnie, you won't believe who Coach Roberts just signed here at Florida State. We got another Brevard athlete coming in. And I, being a distance runner, I was with the tradition of Brevard. I was thinking all these great distance runners. I was thinking, oh, this is awesome. Who is it? Let me guess. Is it Pivoto? Is it Jim Hickey? How about Randy Ward, John Delaney? Just real quick, he said, no, it's Andy Latimer. And I just froze and I said, who's that? And I said, who's that? And I honestly knew that Brevard, I had been following Brevard. I knew they had a good field event guy, but the name and everything, I wasn't registered yet because you and I had never met. And he said, no, he's a triple jumper. This guy's like a 4 or 5 time All-American. I said, all right, I've got a little background in the triple. I said, what does he jump? Because I wanted to know, how good are you? He said, well, I know he can go 51 feet. He said, if I'm not mistaken, he might have gone 52. And I said, holy smokes, that guy's the real deal. And, but I had to wait a few months and everything because you had signed before you actually showed up in Tallahassee. And when you came to the first practice, I was a senior. You're like about a year or two behind me. But when you came in, I was looking for you just because you knew a lot of the same people I did. We were under the same coach and Coach Whittick. And so the first time I saw you at practice, I broke away and I wanted to go over and be very cordial and, just introduce myself. And I went over and I did just that. But as soon as I left, I went back to Jeff Muth and I said, I'm going to tell you something. I learned real quick about Andy, just the little conversation we had. I said, I'm going to tell you, I've already got him figured out. I know why he was so successful at Brevard. I said, it's his attitude. I said, he's got a phenomenal attitude. And I said, he's the kind of guy, not everybody can possess this, but I said, his attitude, it's very contagious, not just with his teammates, but I can already tell it's carrying over to the coaching staff as well. And Andy, on more than one occasion, I overheard Coach Roberts, who was our head coach to the ones listening at Florida State, and Coach Long, who was our field coach. More than once, I overheard them talking about you. And of course, the name, because of Brevard, when I'd hear Andy's name pop up, it would register. So I'd be listening. And they were constantly talking about your work ethic, also your attitude. And they said that it didn't matter. You always did whatever that they asked of you. And, with coaches, that goes a long, long way. And I remember one day, and I'm proud to say this, I was over with the distance runners, and I just happened to look over at the long jump, triple jump runways, and I saw you over there with a couple of your teammates, fellow jumpers. And Coach Brogel, the distance coach, was standing there. And I asked him a personal question. I said, Coach, let me ask you a question. He said, sure. I said, look over there on the long jump runway. I said, see Andy Latimer? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Not as a person, but as an athlete, what are your thoughts on Andy? He said, Ronnie, I'll be very honest with you. When it comes to competing, he's very consistent. He's very successful. And once again, he's got a great attitude. He's going to go a long ways here at Florida State. I said, now, you want me to tell you my thoughts on Andy? He said, sure. I said, all right, I'm going to put it just like it is, Coach. I said, Brevard don't play. And I said, I'm going to say it again. Brevard don't play. Whenever you sign, not just Florida State, anybody, a D1 school signs an athlete out of Brevard College, and Coach Whittick's already allured to this, you're going to get the package deal. They're going to come in and perform every time. Because I said, with Coach Whittick and with Brevard, they're well-groomed and they're very, very seasoned athletes when they step foot on your campus. Andy, there's an old saying that goes something like this. The student athlete is only as good as his teacher or coach. You and I were very, very blessed to perform under the same coach and Coach Whittick. Coach Whittick is also a 3-time Hall of Famer himself. And that's not by accident. He earned every bit of that. Coach Whittick was both an excellent motivator, and he, as you would know, he might not admit this, but he was a great technician as well. He knew how to give you the right workouts. He was an ace, and you alluded to this because I was listening to the first half of the segment. He was an ace at meet preparation. He knew how to get his athletes, whether it was field event performers as yourself or distance runners as myself, he knew how to get us up for the big meets. He also was very, very good at scheduling. Brevard College when I was there and years to come, as you can allure to, we never backed down from anybody. Any Division I school, it didn't matter who we went against, Brevard College never backed down. You know, we would compete against them on a weekly basis, whether it was the Tennessees that Coach Whittick went to, Georgetown. He mentioned Dogwood. I heard him say that right before I had to switch off to something else. But also, I know that the Brevard College cross country team, I believe it was 82, won the state championship collegiately, a junior college, over the Wake Forest, Dukes, North Carolina, NC States, and the rest. They were a dynasty. They truly were. But you know, when an athlete would leave Brevard and they would sign with the D1 program, such as some of the schools that I just named, like Carolina, NC State, you know, Missouri, Georgia Tech, Florida State, they were very well groomed and they were seasoned athletes and they were ready to make an impact immediately. And that's what those coaches would get. Immediate success, an impact. You didn't have to be the number one runner, but you would make that. Andy, you fit the role to a T. When you stepped into Florida State University, you immediately had that impact because that's what I remember of you. You know, it's an athlete as yourself that's kept the Brevard tradition alive over the years and has given Brevard athletics the strong name and reputation that it has today and throughout the country. Tonight, Andy, as you're inducted into the Brevard College Hall of Fame with 5 All-American honors. I didn't know there was anyone else besides Jeff Wentworth until I knew you won a lot. But I knew my old teammate, Jeff Wentworth, had won 5. You won 5 as well. You know, I tip my hat to you. And in closing, I just want to say this. Congratulations and job well done. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Andy, could you follow up on all those words from Ronnie? Great stuff, that connection with Florida State.
Well, thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again. And tell Jeff Muth, I said, hey, next time you're saying, yeah, Florida's making a transition from Brevard to Florida State was an easy transition because of the likes of Coach Whittick, how he had prepared us for that opportunity. Going to Florida State, it was no different almost than Brevard because like Ronnie said, at Brevard, we competed against all the Division I schools anyway. So it was like just another meet. So I had to learn how to continue to maintain that excellence without some of my teammates and people that I had grown accustomed to at Brevard. But it was a whole new set of teammates. I enjoyed it. I grew to very fond of it. It was just a great experience there at Florida State. But it would not have been possible without the groundwork that Brevard College laid, not just to me, but to all of the athletes. It's really put us in a position to where we can succeed. We can go on and do bigger and better things. So I'm eternally grateful.
Thank you for that, Andy. And I want to welcome to the program also Andrew Latimer, tuning in from Arkansas. Andrew, thanks for joining the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, Coach Whittick, I'll let you introduce Andrew further. I know there's a connection here, between the generations that there's a backstory here that I'd love to hear as well. Coach Whittick, just check that mute button for us. There you go.
Okay. First of all, Ronnie, I appreciate everything that you said about me. I'll send you a $20 gift certificate for that. Okay. Yeah, this is really kind of an interesting story, but a couple of years ago, of course, we have the Brevard Distance Runners Camp, and I was doing housing for the camp, and I remember coming across Andy Latimer, a name, just Andy Latimer. I'm going, wow, what a coincidence. I said, I used to know a guy named Andy Latimer, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's his son. Nah, he would never have his kid run cross country. That's out. So I just chalked it up. So all of a sudden, I'm over at one of the desks at camp, and all of a sudden, I see someone kind of coming up to where I'm at, and he goes, Coach. And I look, and Andy Latimer's here. Okay, Andy, what are you doing here? Oh, man, I brought my son here. I said, good grief. He's a distance kid? And he goes, yeah. And so we went over, sat down in the bleachers for a long time. And after Andy was ready to leave, he says, I want you to do me a favor. He said, I really want you to take my son and sit him down and kind of give him one of your talks about what it really means to be a champion. What does it really mean to put the hard work in and really make a difference? And I said, sure, I'd be glad to do that. And so I think it was Thursday night, I called Andy Jr. in, and we sat there and we talked. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about your program, what you do. And he filled me all in. And I said, okay. He said, so here's what my thing is. And we talked about his events. He obviously hasn't probably had the best coaches in the world. He said, well, give me the workouts. And I go, oh, I hate to give you workouts. Maybe the coach is going to get mad and everything. He goes, you won't know. So I actually gave Andy all the workouts that he really should be doing and really trained him on how to do the pulse training. I said, just don't run for the sake of running. Always check your pulse and see what you're doing. And I gave him all the workouts. Well, and I said, if you have any questions, I said, call me. Well, I'm telling you, since that 2 years ago, every third week, I get a call from Andy Jr. No matter where he's at, no matter what he's doing, he wants to know what he has to do to make it right. And I was really shocked the other day because he wound up getting quarantined because of the virus. And he goes, Coach, now what? I'm in a hotel. I can't work out. What do I do? I got to work out. And so I go, okay. So we actually devised step workouts, running up, down the halls and everything to keep him active. And out of all this, I think, Andy Jr., didn't you win the cross-country conference?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he won the conference in cross-country in high school, got a scholarship to compete from cross-country. And so, it was my pleasure to obviously not only help Andy, but actually help his kids kind of be the success that they really need to be. And like Andy said, I guess even Andy Jr. said something. He goes, yeah, my dad said something about this. And he goes, no, that's not what Coach said. I have to listen to Coach Whittick. So, and that's always the issue with parents. And the kids don't really want to listen to the parents. And so someone can be telling them the exact same thing. But it never means that same thing. So I'm glad to help Andy Latimer Jr. It's always good to hear what he's doing. I commend him on the hard work that he has put in, the dedication. He always has it all written down. He can tell me every lap that he's run, his pulse training, what it was. And I certainly don't mind doing that over the years. So congratulations, Andrew Jr.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Andrew Jr., the floor is yours. I'd love to, hear your thoughts, both about Coach Whittick, but also your dad being inducted into the Hall of Fame. A big night for your father.
Yes, sir. It's a real good accomplishment. For Hall of Fame, it's a big deal. So when I heard that, I was, excited for him and, thought it was a big deal.
Well, we're glad you're able to join us on this program and to be a part of it. And we're also joined by Kat Morton. Andy, Kat is a current track and field student athlete here at Brevard College. She's also the Brevard College Student Government Association president. So we were talking earlier in the show as far as, the holistic student athlete experience. Kat gets it done both on the track and in the classroom and around campus. Kat Morton, thanks for joining the show. Do you have some words for Andy Latimer, Hall of Fame inductee?
Yeah, on behalf of just the entire Brevard College track team, congratulations on being inducted and just being a really big part of our journey. It's really enjoyable to meet you as well as just hear about some of your accomplishments. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Kat, for being here. And, we're starting to wind down a bit here. So I do want to kind of go around the horn and we'll wrap it up, eventually getting to the Hall of Fame inductee, Andy Latimer Sr. But would like each of you to just kind of give a final word or two as far as, what Andy's meant to yourself, but also to Brevard College. Ronnie Treadway, we'll get started with you. Final words?
I think Coach Whittick summed it up. As far as what he's meant to Brevard College, he's meant the world. I think he's a very unique individual. Brevard is known primarily when it comes to track and field and cross country with the dynasty. But yet, when you can have an individual come in, any individual, and win 5 All-American honors in 3 events, and high jump and distance medley relay and some of these things, that is unbelievable. So I'll go back remembering that, but I'm also I'll just want to mention, as I did earlier, what I'm always going to remember is the strong competitive winning attitude, a contagious attitude that not only was he had to himself, but how it would always spread to his teammates along with the coaching staff. They all thought the world of him. So hats off to you, Andy.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, and thank you for being part of this. Coach Whittick, final thoughts on Andy Latimer, the latest inductee into the Hall of Fame?
Well, it's been a long time since Andy and I have really kind of communicated, and we've lost kind of touch over the years. And I hope that, in the future, we can kind of remain close together and find out what is going on. But, again, from an athletic standpoint, I think we've all said what we wanted to, but I would just like to say I'm more impressed than what he's done with his life. I mean, to read the whole thing of Andy, the community service that he's putting in, the work he's doing with African-American youths, the missionary work, the dedication that he's put in is really amazing. And to me, I'm more proud of that than I am actually in his athletic competition.
Well said, Coach
You want to
Whittick.
say something here too?
Nancy Whittick, hello.
Hi. I was a brand new bride in 1982. I had 2 stepchildren of my own, and I always thought of Andy as another one of my children. I loved Andy Latimer. I still do to this day. So congratulations, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Whittick and Nancy Whittick, for being here. Andy Latimer Jr., final thoughts on this program tonight, and anything you'd like to let Coach Whittick or your dad know?
Just congratulations again. I learned a lot from you, and hopefully I can get there one day. And Coach Whittick, thank you for always, helping me and stuff. Continue helping me with the workouts and stuff, what I need to do. And thank you.
Call me
Andy
anytime.
Jr. Yeah, I love that story of how this thing's continued through the generations. And Kat Morton, representing the current Brevard College Tornadoes. Kind of cool being a part of this. Glad you're able to join us. Any final thoughts as you think about sort of the legacy and how it sets you guys up for success?
Yeah, thanks. Just
Think you're back on mute, Kat. Make sure you're off mute for us. We don't want to miss these thoughts of yours. There you go.
okay. Sorry, you wasn't working. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I'm sorry. I just said, thank you. It's really an honor to be here and listening to some of your accomplishments. And I really am inspired and honored to really just have the chance to meet you and hear about some of the things that you've done. And I hope to, in the future, be able to hear more about you as well as maybe even meet you one day. So yeah, thank you so much again. And it's congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat, for being here. And we'll leave the final words to the latest Hall of Fame inductee, Andy Latimer Sr. Andy, congratulations from all of us on behalf of Brevard College. Well-deserved. We're thrilled to have you as part of the Hall of Fame. The floor is yours for some final thoughts.
Once again, like I said, I got to really thank the Hall of Fame committee. Thank Coach Whittick. Thank you, Ronnie, for appearing and in such kind words. Kat, thank you. Drew, staying away. You stay in quarantine, aren't you? You staying safe?
Good now.
So what now?
I'm good now.
Okay. This is really this is the highlight of my career here. I could not imagine this in 1,000 years of being here, being inducted into Brevard College Hall of Fame. Man, it is just wonderful. And once again, I cannot thank the university enough, cannot thank Coach enough for making all this possible, for setting the groundwork for this. And Ronnie, teammate at Florida State, man, thank you guys. Phil, thank you. And you guys continue to stay blessed. I'm going to continue to push forward to try to help new and upcoming, not just athletes, but citizens, just be better citizens. Any way I can, any knowledge, any mistakes I've made along the way, I'm going to try to make sure my son and others don't make those. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Very good. Thank you, Andy Latimer, and thank you, NATO Nation, for tuning in for this special presentation, Brevard College Athletics 2020 Hall of Fame induction. Andy Latimer, officially a Brevard College Tornado Athletic Hall of Famer. Thanks, everyone, for joining the show. Thank you for being here tonight, everyone. Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you, sir.